My name's Hayden Green, I'm from Consumer New Zealand. Been writing about the TPP since about the end of 2011, and I was talking before with Gain. I realised that I haven't spoken to a group of people about TPP since 2012, when I was at the Brunei round of negotiations. What I'm going to talk about today hasn't actually changed all that much, so you can see how far we've come in that time. One of the things that has changed, because I'm going to be talking about intellectual property, there's all of these chapters in the TPP that are all about lowering regulations, making it easier for companies to do stuff. The IP chapter is all about really, really tight regulation. It's all about stopping you from doing stuff while allowing companies to hold on to their copyright. Part of that is medicine, which is super important, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time because medicine is really, really important to everybody. But I'm going to talk about media in general and these sort of the copyright restrictions that are going to come into place. So New Zealand is at the bottom of the world. We are the last stop for a lot of these things. We just recently got Netflix, which is really cool. That just came out in, well, is about to come out in New Zealand. That's been out overseas for a very, very long time in the US and in the UK. We wait a very long time for these things to show up, and when they do, like Netflix, they're restricted because everyone already owns the distribution rights, they own the copyright, we can't get anywhere. We have to wait for these things. The Hurt Locker, has anyone seen the movie The Hurt Locker? So that won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. When it won Best Picture, it hadn't been released in New Zealand yet. The movie was, highly talked about. Everyone wanted to see the film. The only way to see it was through pirating it. So a lot of people did. The producers of The Hurt Locker then started a campaign in New Zealand to find all the people who had pirated it and find them, because all of these people wanted to see their film, but they decided that they were going to wait to deliver it here. So this is what I'm meaning when I'm saying we are at the end of the world. So into the TPP. The TPP locks down copyright really harshly. We've discovered in the last few weeks that there absolutely will be copyright extension. So it'll be death of the person who created or owns the copyright plus 70 years, 70. So all of you waiting for James Bond, for example, to go into the public domain, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. All of those cool things. Thankfully, we just got Sherlock Holmes. There was a whole bunch of court cases in the US. We're allowed Sherlock Holmes now. But so all of these things are going to be locked up for a whole bunch longer because of this entire chapter. The copyright chasers, the ones who really want to lock this down, are very, very intent on this because it's a major export industry in the US. It's a major export industry for Japan. You don't really think about media being exported so much. You don't think about films being an export industry, but they really, really are. Perhaps the only other country that has that would be India, but thankfully they're not in the TPP. So we've got this situation where copyright wants to be locked down, and the reason why it's really bad when it's locked down is that it stifles creativity. If you think about all of the wonderful adaptations that we've seen of classic novels, of classic movies, of music that has been taken and remixed, turned into something different, turned into something amazing, all of that gets locked down because it's owned by a particular company for a much, much longer period of time. We are working with Consumers International and the Electronic Freedom Foundation, Frontier Foundation? I can't remember. In a group called Fair Deal, to try and tell these stories through social media, through the internet, about save culture, save the storytellers, because this is what the extension of copyright is going to break down. It's going to break down the ability for people to tell stories. There is a really good New Zealand novel called Tarzan Presley, a fantastic New Zealand novel, and I don't know how many of you have read it. I see people nodding. It tells the story of both Tarzan and Elvis Presley as the same person living in, who was brought up in New Zealand fighting giant gorillas and giant weathers. And it's this amazing novel and this amazing imaginary piece of work that was completely shut down by Arthur Conan Doyle's estate, who said that, you can't use Tarzan because that's ours, we own this. And the book had already been published. The book had been published and sold, and thankfully I'd got a copy. And it was, shut down, and I believe that he was allowed to change it as long as he removed all mentions of Tarzan, which radically altered the book, given that Tarzan Presley was in the title. So this is the sort of thing that we're stifling right now with these copyright extremes. It's very hard to see why. So it's very easy to see why companies would want to hold on to these things. They are making lots of money out of it. There's the famous Mickey Mouse clause in the US, where Mickey Mouse was about to become in public domain. So the US changed its copyright laws in order to keep that after severe lobbying from Disney. Unsurprisingly, Disney is also lobbying this one. Disney died in 1960-something, so he's coming up to, Mickey Mouse is coming up again. So unsurprisingly, now we're getting this pushed out by a further amount of time. I had something that I was going to talk about, and this is why I really need to bring notes when I come to these things. ISP, that is actually what it was. We had the 3 strikes law put into our copyright legislation recently. Until then, an update on our copyright laws has been put on hold. When an OIA was asked for the reasons why this has been put on hold, the answer came back completely redacted. The reason is clear, that we're waiting for the TPP to go through before we change our laws to whatever America would like our copyright laws to be. So under ISP liability laws, the 3 strikes laws become really, really scary, because it's not just a fine, it becomes a crime. It becomes a crime to break copyright. So the criminal penalties tend to be a lot harsher than just, a fine that you have to pay. These incredibly draconian rules for something that, when people look at things, they're just like, well, no, I just wanted to see this piece of media and I couldn't. Back before we introduced those 3 strike laws to our copyright law, anyone who owned an iPod, and had music on that iPod had done so illegally, because there was no legal way to get music onto your iPod until the laws were changed, and the laws were only changed in the mid-2000s. So that's how long we've had these sort of crazy laws. So the criminal element of these ISP things is quite terrifying. What's interesting is when you talk to ISPs, and I'm a technology writer, so I talk to ISPs quite a bit. They have no idea, or if they do, they don't. They say they don't. Talking to Slingshot, who have a global mode where you can pretend that you're in the US and watch US stuff. Which is the easiest way to describe that. I spoke to them and said, have you heard about these ISP liabilities? And they said, no, we haven't. I said, you really need to, because you're offering a service which will see you liable for a lot of these criminal penalties. These companies will then be forced to look up your name, your address. It costs them money under the TPP. They won't be compensated by the people making the claims, whether the claims are true or false. False takedowns are a huge thing in the States. I put up a bit of content on YouTube. Maybe it says something bad about your restaurant. You claim it's a DMCA takedown. They use something copyrighted of mine. YouTube takes that down. It's not seen for ages. It goes through a very, very, very long process before I can get that back up. TPP makes it much, much easier for my content to be taken down. It doesn't make it easier for other people it doesn't make it harder for people to make false claims. There's a whole industry called copyright trolls. Copyright trolls will send you a letter. It looks really, really official from a lawyer saying, we own the copyright on blah, 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 and you need to send us a whole bunch of money because you're infringing copyright. That industry is set to thrive under the TPP. And there is wording, the last leak that we saw, there is wording that says temporary copies are not allowed under these IP laws. For those of you who know much about the internet, that's how the internet works. It's a series of temporary copies that go across the internet for you to get to it. If temporary copies become illegal, then the servers in between you and your computer and the place where it first came to are then housing illegal content. That makes it really, really simple for companies, governments to take down websites, to take down servers. If you're hosting illegal content, we can just take this down. When I asked the New Zealand chief negotiator, who's normally a very, very nice guy, I said, you know, this language, is it still in there? He said, yes, that's fine, but I'm pretty sure no one will use it for that means. So, yeah, it's all right. I'm pretty sure that it'll be fine. Yeah, so in essence, that's what's happening in the copyright chapter. We are looking at ways and means of making people more aware of this. We are, like I say, we're using social media as much as we can. As for consumer organisations that we're grouping up with, Choice in Australia have just put out a campaign. They're doing a writing campaign to the Minister to try and release the text, and we're behind it. We're pessimistic about it, but we're behind it because all of our previous attempts to do this have failed completely. So we have consumer organisations in every single TPP country except America fighting